Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the English Learning Podcast. I'm Emilia, and as always, I'm joined by my fantastic co-host, Brian.
Hi, everyone. We're so glad you could join us today. We've got a really exciting topic lined up for you, and it's one that I think a lot of you will find incredibly helpful.
Absolutely. Today, we're diving into a topic that many English learners struggle with: how to feel confident when speaking English. Whether you're in a classroom, at work, or even just chatting with friends, building confidence can be a real challenge.
It definitely can be, Emilia. I remember when I first started learning a new language, the fear of making mistakes or being judged was something that really held me back. But over time, I found ways to push through that and build the confidence I needed to speak up.
And that's exactly what we'll be talking about today. We'll share some of our own experiences, give you practical tips to boost your confidence, and as always, we've got a fun dialogue segment and some key vocabulary words lined up to help you along the way.
So whether you're just starting out or looking to take your speaking skills to the next level, stick around because this episode is packed with insights that you won't want to miss.
So, Brian, let's dive into today's main topic: how to feel confident when speaking English. This is something that a lot of learners struggle with, and I think it's important to first understand why that is. What do you think are some of the common reasons people feel anxious or lack confidence when speaking English?
Great question, Emilia. From my experience, there are a few key reasons. One of the biggest is the fear of making mistakes. A lot of learners worry that if they say something wrong, they'll be judged or misunderstood. This fear can prevent them from even trying to speak.
That's so true. And it's not just about making mistakes, right? There's also the fear of not knowing enough vocabulary or grammar, which can make people feel like they're not good enough to speak English.
Exactly. Another factor is the fear of being judged by others, especially by native speakers. It's easy to feel like you're being scrutinized, even if that's not really the case. This fear can lead to a lack of confidence and hesitation when it comes to speaking.
Definitely. And what about the pressure to be perfect? I think a lot of people feel like they have to speak English perfectly, without any mistakes, and that can be really intimidating.
Perfectionism is a huge barrier. It's important to remember that nobody speaks perfectly all the time, not even native speakers. Making mistakes is a natural part of the learning process, and it's actually one of the best ways to improve.
Exactly. So, with all these challenges in mind, let's talk about some practical ways to overcome them. What do you think is the first step in building confidence when speaking English?
Well, I think the first step is to shift your mindset. Instead of seeing mistakes as failures, try to see them as learning opportunities. Every time you make a mistake, you're actually making progress because you're learning what not to do next time.
That's a great point. I always tell my students that making mistakes is a sign that you're pushing yourself and trying new things, which is exactly what you should be doing when learning a language.
And another key to building confidence is practice. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become. This doesn't just mean practicing with native speakers, although that's definitely helpful. You can also practice on your own.
Exactly. One great way to practice on your own is by recording yourself speaking. It might feel awkward at first, but it's a fantastic way to hear how you sound, identify areas for improvement, and track your progress over time.
Absolutely. And when you listen back to those recordings, don't be too hard on yourself. Focus on the progress you're making, not just the things you want to improve.
That's so important, Brian. It's easy to be your own worst critic, but remember that everyone's learning journey is different. Celebrate the small wins, like getting through a conversation without freezing up or successfully using a new word.
Definitely. And speaking of conversations, another great tip is to engage in daily speaking practice. Even if it's just talking to yourself in the mirror, the act of speaking out loud helps build confidence. The more you do it, the more natural it will feel.
That's a great idea. It's also helpful to set small, achievable goals. For example, start by having a short conversation with a friend or ordering food in English at a restaurant. These small steps can gradually build up your confidence.
And if you can, try to find a language partner or join a conversation group. These environments are usually very supportive, and it's a great way to practice speaking without the fear of being judged.
Yes, having someone to practice with regularly can make a huge difference. It also makes the process more fun and social, which can help reduce anxiety.
And speaking of reducing anxiety, it's important to work on overcoming the fear of judgment. Remember that most people are understanding and supportive, especially when they know you're learning. They're more likely to appreciate your effort than to judge your mistakes.
Absolutely. And sometimes, it helps to remind yourself that everyone was a beginner at some point. Even native speakers had to learn their first words and phrases. You're not alone in this journey.
Exactly. And if you do find yourself feeling nervous, try some relaxation techniques before you speak. Deep breathing, visualization, or even just a few moments of positive self-talk can help calm your nerves.
Those are great strategies, Brian. And I think it's also important to focus on the message you want to convey rather than worrying too much about how you're saying it. If you're clear and confident in your message, the words will come more easily.
That's a fantastic point. Confidence really comes from within, and when you believe in what you're saying, others will too. It's all about taking that first step and trusting yourself.
Remember that building confidence in speaking English is a journey. It's about making progress, not being perfect, and every step you take is a step in the right direction.
Well said, Emilia. Just keep practicing, stay positive, and don't be afraid to speak up. Confidence will come with time and experience.
Now that we've talked about some strategies for building confidence, let's move on to our dialogue segment. We've prepared 2 conversations between friends that highlight some of the key points we discussed. These dialogues are designed to help you see how you can apply these strategies in real-life situations.
So in the first dialogue, we'll listen to a conversation between 2 friends, Sophie and Lucas, as they discuss a recent event and how Sophie is feeling about speaking English in public. Let's jump right into it.
Lucas, I'm so nervous about the presentation I have to give tomorrow. It's in English and I'm worried I'll mess up.
I understand, Sophie. But you've been preparing for weeks. You know the material inside out. What exactly are you worried about?
I guess it's just the idea of speaking in front of everyone. What if I forget a word or my accent makes it hard for people to understand me?
First of all, your accent is nothing to worry about. It's part of who you are, and it's something that makes you unique. Most people won't even notice. As for forgetting a word, it happens to everyone, even native speakers.
But what if I freeze up? I don't want to look foolish in front of my colleagues.
Remember what we talked about before. Focus on your message, not on how perfect your English is. Your colleagues are there to listen to your ideas, not to judge your language skills. If you do forget a word, just pause, take a breath, and find another way to say it. You're more prepared than you think.
You're right. I practiced a lot and I do know what I want to say. Maybe I'm just overthinking it.
It's natural to feel that way, but try to turn those nerves into excitement. You've got this. And remember, making a mistake isn't the end of the world. It's how we learn.
Thanks, Lucas. I feel a bit better now. I'll try to keep that in mind tomorrow.
You'll do great, Sophie. Just go in there with confidence, and everything will fall into place.
So, in that first dialogue, we saw how Sophie was feeling nervous about speaking English in a formal setting and how Lucas reassured her by focusing on her preparation and reminding her that mistakes are a natural part of the process.
Exactly. It's a great example of how having someone support you can really make a difference. Now, let's move on to our second dialogue, where we'll see another friend Liam, encouraging Lisa to practice speaking English more confidently in everyday situations.
Liam, I've been trying to speak English more often, but I still feel so self-conscious, especially when I'm in a store or a cafe. I just can't shake the feeling that people are judging me.
I get it, Lisa. It's easy to feel that way, but most people are just focused on their own lives. They're not judging you as much as you think. In fact, they probably appreciate that you're making an effort to speak their language.
Maybe, but I still worry about saying something wrong. Like yesterday, I was trying to order coffee, and I completely blanked on the word for sugar. I just felt so embarrassed.
That happens to everyone. And you know what? That's okay. If you forget a word, you can always describe what you're trying to say or even ask for help. Most people will be more than happy to help you out.
I know you're right. I just need to practice more, I guess.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. You can practice in small ways every day. Like when you're at home, try speaking out loud to yourself, or even think in English when you're going about your day.
That's a good idea. I could start by talking about simple things, like what I'm cooking or what I need to do that day.
Exactly. The more you do it, the more natural it will feel. And if you make it a habit, you'll start to notice that you're not as nervous when speaking to others.
I'll give it a try. I really want to feel more confident, especially in those everyday situations.
And you will, Lisa. Just remember to be patient with yourself. Confidence doesn't come overnight, but with practice, you'll get there.
Thanks, Liam. I really needed to hear that.
Anytime. We're all in this together, right?
Definitely. I'm going to start practicing more from today.
In that second dialogue, we saw how Liam encouraged Lisa to practice English daily and not to be too hard on herself when she makes mistakes. It's a great reminder that confidence is something that builds over time with consistent practice.
Absolutely. These dialogues show that speaking English confidently is a journey, and having supportive friends and daily practice can make all the difference. It's all about taking small steps and staying positive.
Now that we've gone through some real-life dialogues, it's time to dive into our vocabulary segment. In this part of the podcast, we'll focus on 5 key words and phrases that came up in our conversation today. These words are not only useful for discussing confidence, but also for improving your overall English fluency.
That's right, Emilia. So let's get started with our first word.
Our first word is fluency. Fluency refers to the ability to speak a language smoothly and expressively without frequent pauses or hesitations. It's what many learners aim for when they think about being confident in a language.
Exactly. For example, you might say, "She speaks English with great fluency, which makes her easy to understand." Fluency isn't about speaking perfectly. It's about speaking comfortably and naturally.
Right. And remember, fluency comes with time and practice, so don't stress about being perfect. Focus on being clear and confident.
Next up, we have self-assurance. This word means confidence in one's own abilities or character. When you're self-assured, you trust yourself and your skills, which is crucial when speaking a new language.
Yes, self-assurance can really help you push through the fear of making mistakes. For example, his self-assurance grew as he practiced speaking English every day. Building self-assurance is key to overcoming doubts and speaking with confidence.
And remember, self-assurance isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop through experience and practice.
Our third term is public speaking. This refers to the act of speaking in front of an audience, whether it's a small group or a large crowd. Public speaking can be a major confidence booster, but it's also something that many people find intimidating.
That's true. A lot of people feel nervous about public speaking, but with practice, It can become a great way to build confidence in your English skills. For example, she improved her public speaking skills by joining a local club.
If you can handle public speaking, you'll find that other speaking situations become much easier. It's all about facing your fears head-on.
Now, let's talk about nervousness. Nervousness is the state of being anxious or apprehensive, especially when you're about to do something that makes you uncomfortable, like speaking English in front of others.
Right. For example, he felt a wave of nervousness before his presentation, but he took a deep breath and started speaking. Nervousness is a natural response, but it's important to learn how to manage it so it doesn't hold you back.
And one way to manage nervousness is by preparing thoroughly and focusing on your message, rather than on your fears.
Our final word for today is encouragement. Encouragement means giving someone support, confidence, or hope. It's something we all need, especially when we're learning something new, like a language.
Absolutely. For example, her friend's encouragement helped her overcome her fear of speaking English in public. Encouragement from others can make a huge difference in how confident we feel.
And don't forget to encourage yourself as well. Positive self-talk can be just as powerful as encouragement from others.
So there you have it. 5 keywords that can help you not only discuss confidence, but also build it as you practice speaking English.
We hope these words and phrases will be useful as you continue your English learning journey. Remember, confidence is something you build over time, and using these words in your conversations can help you express yourself more clearly and effectively.
Absolutely. Keep practicing, stay positive, and don't be afraid to use these new words in your daily life.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We've covered a lot of ground on how to feel confident when speaking English, from understanding the common challenges to practicing daily and using supportive strategies to build your self-assurance.
That's right, Emilia. Confidence is something that grows with time and practice, so don't be discouraged if it doesn't come overnight. Remember, every mistake is a step forward in your learning journey.
Absolutely. We hope the tips and dialogues we shared today will help you feel more confident the next time you speak English, whether it's in a casual conversation, at work, or in a public setting.
And don't forget about the vocabulary we discussed. Using those key words and phrases in your daily practice can really help solidify your understanding and boost your confidence even further.
Exactly. So keep practicing, stay positive, and remember that confidence comes with time. You're doing great just by taking the steps to improve your English skills.
We're so glad you joined us for this episode of the English Learning Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with your friends and leave us a review. Your feedback really helps us make the show better.
And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, feel free to reach out to us. We love hearing from our listeners.
Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Until then, keep learning and stay confident.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.